today's guest. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to do the honor in introducing her. Her name is Geneva Moorad. She is an advocate, an organizer, and just overall powerful woman in the community. And today we are talking about human exploitation, also known as human trafficking, in the Central Valley. So before we get into the conversation, as always, I'm just giving the community a little background about what I mean when I say human exploitation. So human exploitation is the violation of a person's rights. That is a situation where people are exploiting someone mentally, physically, and wholeheartedly within their own person. So I don't know if many people know this, but there are one in four victims of human exploitation are children. There are over 41 million persons throughout the world that can be exploited on any given day. The state of California, unfortunately, is ranked number 1 in the United States that are experiencing high volumes of human exploitation, followed by Texas, and the third largest state is Florida. 88% of those who are being exploited do stem from the foster care system. Very shocking. And 75% are women and or girls. And last but not least, the exploitation of these individuals usually result in some type of sexual act or sexual favor. And with that being said, there are billions of dollars that are raised or are spent for the exploitations of human rights. Some risk factors. The vulnerability, meaning that these are factors that play into people who are more likely to be victimized. That includes runaways. That includes persons who identify as LBGT. This also means individuals who are in foster care. Earlier I mentioned foster youth and our children who have been detained by Child Protective Services. That does play a factor in the vulnerability of this population. Lack of family support, absentee parents, poverty, homelessness, despair, trauma, emotional distress. And last but not least, this is something that is big, that is being discussed right here, families who have immigration issues or immigration status issues. These are all risk factors that play into the likelihood of being exploited in a human, in an inhuman sense. So, Geneva, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Central Valley. I know that you have been at the forefront, in the trenches, in this particular field. So let's talk about what we're sensing is going on with the exploitation here.
Well, I original have a lot of knowledge. I've been at the Women's Center. I was there for 8 years of my life here in Stockton. So I work with a lot of human trafficking. But I remember the things that I was seeing at the last years before I left the agency. I noticed that a lot of these young ladies were trafficking by their own parents. I mean, they were, it was really sad to know that your parents are selling you to somebody from China or a neighbor. But the sad part is that they live right here next to us. They're our neighbors. They're our friends. They go to school with our kids.
Right.
So we're not aware of that. A lot of people don't know anything about human trafficking. It seems like it just goes from one ear and comes out from the other. I notice a lot of people talk about human trafficking, but what are they doing to support the fact that we living here in Stockton? You see a lot of human trafficking. You go by Wilson Way, you see a lot of girls and young men. I mean, not just girls now. Like you see young men doing the same thing.
Right.
It could be a lot of, for like you said, immigration. They come here with mom and dad get deported, so they're home alone. What do they have to do to survive? So maybe one of the neighbors or a friend of them knows somebody that's in that human trafficking aspect, and they said, "Hey, come in, I'm gonna help you to survive." And that's how they end up survive. And then they end up going to San Jose, or they go to Santa Cruz, they go to Fresno, they go different spots, and the next thing you know, they're recruiting other girls, or they go to Maryground and then bring the other girls in. So we don't pay attention to any of that.
Right. And, you made so many powerful points in that statement, because human trafficking is such a silent victimization as well. And when we think about the poverty and the despair that people are facing with the uprise of rent and high costs, people are destituted and people are desperate. And I'm not trying to excuse this process at all. But when we talk about really centering on the root of the issue, we have to really understand what's going on in order to create some type of change.
That's correct.
Because, I think that when you hear about it, people are kind of like whispering and, kind of not wanting to identify the truths. But when you go to down Wilson Way, the truth is very obvious.
Right.
And so with that being said, what are some of the things that you have seen in the 8 years of your experience in working with this population about reform? Or what can you suggest for reform?
There's for me, when I used to work for the sexually assault response team at the county hospital, it's spelled SART, so it's sexually assault response team. We connect them with resources with victims of a crime, right? But some of them didn't have immigration status. Some of them didn't want to follow up. Some of them are scared to talk about who's doing the trafficking because they're scared.
Right.
So how are you going to bring a kid who's 13 years old and we're going to ask him who was a trafficker when they're scared they're going to hurt their parents, or they're either going to call immigration, they're going to kill their parents, or they're going to do something, right? So they didn't want to do it. So I had to deal with a lot of young girls like that. They'll say, well, this has been happened to me, but it didn't happen. So they keep changing their mind. One of my parts when I come in to talk to them and said, how you feeling? I would never tell them it's your fault. You put yourself in that situation. But the girls would tell me, well, I went to a party and a friend of mine said, hey, let's meet this guy. And they're like 14, 15 years old. I mean, we're talking about the ages of 14, 15. What are they doing at the party? Where's the parents at? Where the parents think they're going to go spend a night with their friends. So they don't really know what's going on. So they go to a party and they're 14 and they meet an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old. Mm-hmm. So this is how they say, oh, I'm in love with you, but that's a lie. So I think it starts from home, or the parents should be teaching their children not to believe when people tell you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to give you money, not to take money from strangers. But it's hard for us to say something. So I feel like there has to be more to that. It has to be more aftercare. It should be more people, more mentors, more. Let's talk about human trafficking. It seems like everybody's scared to talk about human trafficking. It's scared. Some people are scared to even report human trafficking. If you see something going on, people are scared. I mean, we call like, well, let's not be a snitch. But I understand that part. But these kids are getting hurt.
Right. And so with that being said about the snitching, I think that's such a fine line, because there's an opportunity to reshape the conversation. Mm-hmm. And so when girls are being sought out, is a very intentional process. And the exploitation is, getting into the mindset of these young girls and guys, mm-hmm. and making them feel as if they have no other option, have no other choices. And so I always say, like, we heal the community with one conversation at a time. And in these conversations, we need to be educating our kids just in general about, the possibility of exploitation and what that means. And I think that, as I'm sure and working in this field, a lot of times the exploitation is, you're so beautiful, you're so cute, and let me take you here, and that telling that girl or that young man everything that he or she needs to know to feel better inside. And then it can start off with small items, small gifts, purses, shoes, taking them to get their hair done, et cetera, et cetera. That's called the grooming.
That's correct. That's the first thing I was going to
That's
mention.
the first thing. That's the first step in that, is the grooming. And so when you are looking at our most vulnerable populations, which are the runaways and the foster youth and the undocumented and those who have emotional despair, that's the grooming piece. That's making them feel good inside.
Right.
Even
drug abuse. I noticed that.
Oh, absolutely.
Even mental health. I noticed that.
Yes.
They take it. I have a feeling like the guys, they know where they're going. They know where they're going to attack, because when they see that young girl who's feeling, even though I've seen a lot of girls who are beautiful, they have makeup on, their hair done, and they still get attacked. But the thing is that they ask them that simple question: "Oh, who do you live at home with?" "Oh, my mom is a single mom." They're like, "Oh." That's why they end up being, okay, I could be your daddy, so
assessing,
they end up feeling, that's why it's hard, because a lot of people don't know that it happens. Even though you can have the best daughter at home, but when it could happen to your daughter, it could happen to the best families. Human trafficking is not, doesn't go and say, oh, we're going to go to this area. They go everywhere.
It doesn't discriminate. And so the vulnerability of people, like when I talk about the vulnerability, I talk about young women and young men who may be missing something. Maybe they don't have a father figure, and maybe they have two parents in the home, but they don't have that love, that support, and that attention. And so when you're hearing that and you're lacking it, they're fulfilling something that young person may not have had. And so that's the piece that again, that exploitation.
Right.
And I think that sometimes we miss the mark on some of these interventions because nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah. Everybody's so afraid to talk about it because a lot of people don't believe this is happening. And that's where a lot of, like, for example, you and I can fulfill that space.
Yeah.
We can have workshops, then girls, we can come and we can teach them, hey, this is what you can do, what you cannot do. A lot of girls don't know this is happening. They think, oh, he's cute, he loves me. No, he might love you today, but he might not love you tomorrow. So we have to teach them how to take care of themselves, take care, going to school, getting educated, finish school. That's getting a job, doing for yourself. Because if you don't do it for yourself, somebody else is going to take you with them and teach them the wrong things. And that's why I'm saying we can always do the aftercare, help them, have workshops. We don't have that in Stockton. I don't see any mentors for human trafficking. Have you?
No.
See.
And that is something that is deeply, deeply needed. So I just want to also share this story. So my daughter's senior year. Sad mom I am. My daughter's going off to college, right? And so my daughter's straight A's, very, very hardworking, opinionated, very well spoken. And so I started to have this conversation about what human trafficking is. And the first thing she said was, Mom, you're being too overprotected, and people don't do that. Why would someone do that to someone? First thing she said. Mm-hmm. So innocent, 17 years old, everyone. And so I had to take a step back because I thought, like, whoa, here my daughter is, and I've given her everything I can, the best of what I can, and I did what I could as a mom. But I felt like, whoa, my daughter's very naive to what goes on. And so I'm like, my daughter's naive about the fact that this type of things happen, how many other youth are naive to that? And so it was important for me to have that conversation with her, because when she goes out of state for college, because that's her choice and her decision, and I support that, I want her to be protected and safe. And I want her to understand that there are situations that happen, and this is why. But again, like you just said, if we're not talking about this collectively as a community, because remember, California rates the highest amongst any other state that has youth and young girls and young men who are exploited. So then again, more conversations about what exploitation is.
Especially the foster youth, as soon as they turn 18, we forget, the system, or they forget about them. They don't realize that they do need aftercare. They do need help, because if the girls were in the human trafficking before, they might go back to the same thing, because now they don't have no money. They have to do something to get back on their feet. So we don't understand what they're going through. Where it's like, oh, well, she wants to go back to her pimp. But we don't really understand the connection they had, or because she's looking for that father figure.
And she's trying to feel that that love and support. So I'm kind of on my phone really quick, because as everybody, I'm a therapist, and so there is a syndrome called Stockholm Syndrome, and what it is when victims develop a psychological alliance with their perpetrators, or the person who is inflicting a crime against them. So they have it's a psychological disorder where victims become not obsessed, but they just feel as if the suspects or these perpetrators are, more of boyfriends, or he loves me. And they develop this love and respect, attachment, and loyalty. And so they did a study. The Stockholm Syndrome is, what is this, back to 1973. So this has been around. This is a study that's been around for obviously well over almost 50 years. And so when we talk about just the psychological needs of people, safety, security, and a sense of well-being and love and protection is number one. So if they're not having, the sense of protection or feeling loved, this draws them closer to individuals who are exploiting. You know what I mean?
That's correct.
And
I agree with that.
It's really sad. And so one thing that I do like that has changed in this whole dynamic of sexual exploitation and human trafficking is that now we're looking at the victims as victims and trying to provide them with some type of support and therapy. But I think that you and I both can agree that if we put a lot more effort and energy in intervention, that we may be able to kind of offset some of the numbering here. I mean, almost 41 million globally. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people to save.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But we have to start with one person. So it's like, take one person, you take 10. And it goes from 10 to 20.
Right.
Yeah.
So what has been your experience with educating families of these girls and young men who have been exploited? Like how has the family
So that part, that was not my part. Like usually my part was when they came in to me, it was so I have 30 minutes to get to the place that I have to be, right? So if it was human trafficking, I was there as a support. I was an advocate to support the support system they needed, right? But after the care, they go to the women's center and they have the human trafficking component. So I don't know how is that working right now with them. So I really haven't touched bases with them. But when I was there, I was that one face they see and they feel comfortable with.
Right.
I wish I was the aftercare that I can still continue talking to them to see how they're doing and follow up to see how their families are doing. But my part was to just get their information, follow, so they can follow up with their peer counselor or the human trafficking counselor that's dealing with that. I noticed, I've seen a lot of girls that I work with, and they come up to me and they always remind themselves, they always tell me, I remember when I met you for the first time, I remember that face. You were so positive to me. You always tell me it's not my fault. And then they're still in school, and they said the thing that helped them was to get educated, to get a job, and have their own money, their own car, and make sure that they don't follow up for the same thing again. But some of them said they don't want to go to parties and do drugs. That was the main thing. But remember, right now we're in a different the millennium. When drugs are like the thing right now to do, like.
Well, right. And then that's a whole nother conversation,
but
you kind of opened the door. So let's just talk about it real quick. And I hate to get, because this conversation is so needed and so broad. But again, when people have polysubstance abuse issues or substance abuse issues, usually they're using the drugs to cope with something.
That's correct.
Right. So they're trying to cope with some feelings. They're trying to cope with some traumatic experience, and so
no healing.
Yeah, no healing involved. Just let me.
And we have a lot of nonprofits here in Stockton that talk about healing, and a lot of people go there and they still come out either worse with no healing. So we need to figure it out. What's the nonprofits? We should all get together as a group and trying to help these young people.
Right.
Human trafficking is a big concern, just like immigration is, just like mental health, just like foster youth, just like there's a lot of things here.
Right.
A lot of crime in Stockton. We have to help our city because it's gonna get worse if we don't do something about it.
And I love what you just said, because I feel like there are a lot of nonprofits, but we are more powerful when we are working for the common good collectively and cohesively and together than apart. We have nonprofits that have like 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. But if we join 10, then we have a whole team.
That's right.
So speaking of that, I know that you and I have been working on a project. So you want to let's drop
about it?
Yeah. So we're talking about this collaborative force, and so Geneva and I are going to be rolling something out in the next couple weeks. I'm really excited about that. And we just said there's a whole bunch of them. So we're not trying to take anything from anything that anyone is doing.
No, that's correct.
However, in the next few weeks, we're about to drop something huge for our community. And it really is going to be about collaborative partnerships, because there's not one person, one entity, one being that's going to be able to touch what we're needing to address.
Right.
The substance abuse, the foster youth, the trauma, the despair, the human trafficking, and the parents. That's huge. Today I was at a meeting about some of the different things that we're rolling out, like our mastermind parenting group and our yoga and healing in a park. And so, interestingly, again, people are like, whoa, this is big. We love what you guys are doing. But we need more. There's just so much work.
Yes.
And it's not going to be just a one agency or one organization.
We have to connect. Everybody has to connect. That's why I said, I do my resource and I get along with everybody. Why? Yeah. Because I don't have issues with anybody. I want to be able to help our clients, the youth, everybody that comes to our door. I want to be able to refer them to another nonprofit, to another agency, to collaborate. There's no, I'm going to take all of them and not help. So I want to be able to help somebody that comes to our agency and send them to the right place. And I make sure the right place will take care of them, because I'm going to follow up with them and make sure they're doing their job, because I don't want to send somebody somewhere and they're not doing their job.
Absolutely. And I think that's so real. And I think that is exactly what we need. And we need to be at the places where our families are and take the personal opinions out of the resources, and the personal opinions out of the solutions, and the personal opinions out of the treatment. Because if we don't, we're shifting the energy everywhere it should be but the identified person. And that's when it becomes problematic. And that's where we lose the strength and unity. And so I don't know about you. I know we've been talking about this for so long. It's like over the summer. So
it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
And then, like I said, we are here to help each other. We're not here for a competition. Who has more numbers? Who has more grants? We're not here to the money. We're here for the people. Like I said, I see a lot of nonprofits doing their job, but are they helping the community? Is it something that I had to sit here and said, well, why you're not helping this person? No, I want to be able to sit here and make sure you are helping the person. Because I don't want to send, like I said, I said, I don't want to send my client or my family to your agency and you're not helping them. I wanted them to come back and let me know, hey, this person helped me. And I want to make sure they have a better place to be and a place to go, because we are going to follow up with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, following up, and then also being able to share those resources, to share opportunities for other nonprofits and agencies to continue to grow. When you stop growing, you stop living.
That's correct.
And so I'm really for educating and supporting and exchanging. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I think we're all here for the common good.
That's correct.
So I'm really excited. I know you're really excited to share.
Excited. We can't wait.
Yeah, to share this hard work. This has been definitely a blessed year. So
it's going to be good. It's coming, and you know, for everybody to know that it's a good team coming your way.
Yeah. And again, I think that sometimes we miss the mark in true healing and true support. And true support is by really working efficiently together for the common good. One population I think people miss the mark on, because it is 75% are women, and there's a 25% of males, young males and young men who are trafficked, and the stigma with men. So in your time with the Women's Center, did you see a lot of males? And what did we do? Because now human trafficking as a whole, no one talks about, but specifically when we're talking about males, that comes with a whole gamut, a whole lot of stigma. And so let's talk about that a little bit, about the stigma in men. So that's totally not, I mean, you don't even hear about that.
Yeah, you don't hear about that because there's not a lot of reports about that, and they don't want to talk about it because, come on, you're a man. Who wants to talk about that?
Yeah, machismo, the male masculine.
Yeah. They call them names, even though they're not in that. How do you call it? You know, especially being a Latino or even African American, anybody. That's not a good. Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to talk about that. That's really shame, embarrassed.
It is the stigma that comes with it.
But there are. I believe there's a lot up there.
Right, and I love what you just said, because it just resonated with me and stuck with me really fast and quickly. These statistics are only what is being reported. And like you mentioned earlier, in going to the hospitals and responding to situations where people are reporting being trafficked, Some people don't report because they're scared.
That's
Right.
good.
And some people may begin to tell the story like that day when that incident occurred and then later withdraw their statement. And so what happens is that also changes the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be a lot more than what we just mentioned. So
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We don't. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. Like when I remember when I used to mention human trafficking, people would just walk away and just look at me funny, like, "Are you crazy?" Like,
that doesn't happen here.
yeah, not here in Stockton.
Right.
A lot of people think that human trafficking is coming from another country like Europe or Mexico or Panama or Colombia. No, human trafficking happens down the street from your house, next to you, in the corner. People
Right
you
around the
know,
corner.
your family members. It's always going to happen next to you. You wouldn't even notice because you think that it's normal. And a lot of people think it's normal. Like they don't see
Yeah.
that it's human trafficking. They don't
Yeah.
pay attention to it.
So there was a movie that came out called Trafficking years ago that really kind of opened the floodgates to this topic. And I love what you just said, because when I was researching this very topic tonight, it said that the number one stigma is that people felt like human trafficking only happened in other countries, shipping young girls.
That's correct.
Here in the United States. It stated that, and this is from the National Alliance Against Human Trafficking. It also stated that that people failed to realize that these type of situations with the exploitation of others can happen here in San Joaquin County, does happen here in San Joaquin County, and most importantly, California's number one in the country.
Scary, huh?
It's very scary.
Because I have young daughters, and I have to worry about them. I mean, even though I train them and I tell them what not to do, but it takes 1 minute, 1 second of their life, and they're even adults, even our age can happen.
Right.
So
right.
we're not, even our young boys, our young, babies, we're not prepared. We're not prepared for any of this. But like I said, we will be prepared by us giving resources. There's a lot of resources in Stockton. Just people don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have Family Justice Center and the DA's office. There's Susan. She has an amazing human trafficking there.
Susan Schultz.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know about
She does
that.
an amazing job.
But a lot of people don't know about that. They think, oh, she's in the DA's office. Let's not go there. No, go there. Family Justice Center is for everybody to come in, and if you need help, go there.
Absolutely.
They have the Women's Center. I don't know if they still have the human trafficking or not. I haven't been there, but when I used to work there, it was an amazing human trafficking component. The sexually assault unit and domestic violence. They had a really, really good one there. And there's other places in Modesto. There's a lot of places. One in Sacramento. It's just people have to, ask for help, and we're going to be having those resources our office. So when you guys want to talk about it, we will have a lot of resources there.
She gave another teaser. I said we were going to only do 30 seconds. She's already doing some more teasing. Can't hold water, girl. Can't hold water. But the truth. So we will be offering that in our up and coming office. So I'm really excited. And most importantly to me, because Geneva is going to be doing a lot of the case management, which is a component that is needed. As I've always talked about on the station, and even on my own social media platforms, we have to look at the holistic side, like the whole blueprint of treatment and case management and resources and support is definitely something that is needed.
Yes.
It has to go hand in hand, because even when providing therapy, it's like seeing this child and this family for an hour every other week or weekly or whatever the case may be, like that is only the tip of the iceberg in treatment.
Right.
Again, like looking at that whole psychological makeup of food, shelter, a sense of belonging, housing, jobs, skills,
Right.
work skills.
Life
Skills too is necessary, because again, like we said previously, a lot of victims are falling into the realm of trafficking because they're lacking something. And so as a community, we must step up and ensure that our youth are protected
Right.
at all given times, because it affects us all.
Yeah, it does.
You know, it's
A lot of people don't think that affects the community, but we're all one community, and we're supposed to stick with our community. If you want Stockton to make a change, be the first one to make a change. Don't talk about it, do it.
yep.
Because a lot of people talk about it, but I don't see anybody out there doing anything to help our community. We are here as a group, and I ask for everybody to come, not just like, oh no, everybody, come on, tell me what you have, bring me all the resources you have.
Yeah, and let's work it together.
Yeah.
You know, it's so sad, but I went to a establishment off Wilson Way today, and you know, we had talked about coming on the show and talking about human trafficking, and it's like, I don't know, maybe about 4:30 or so, and I'm driving down Wilson Way, and I'm like, whoa. You know, Geneva and I are about to go on the show and talk about human trafficking, and seeing what I saw, like, really validated the conversation tonight.
Right. And then, you know, you got Shadowway and you got Central.
Yeah.
Downtown Stockton.
Yeah.
At nighttime, trying to come
Yeah.
by nighttime, you see the young girls walking around. A lot of people don't see it. I see it.
I see it too.
And it's
And
sad.
not only, and young men,
Yeah.
just the same. So,
When everybody's sleeping at home, things are happening in the streets. So.
and it's very sad. And it's, you know, sometimes I was talking to one of my coworkers from the past, and she said, back in the day when I was going through school, I did a lot of work with group homes, and she was telling us about a mutual client that was out there, and she said she instantly pulled over and like was on the, you know, the triage mode, and she was talking to her and kind of trying to find out what she could do to help her. And it just breaks my heart, because I just feel like there's just so much that we can do to help this population. There's so much that we can do, and we only will be successful if we do it together as one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As a team, all of us should get together and work in that.
Teamwork
Yes.
makes.
There's a lot of young women I know that would love to be part of the team, and they know who they are. I can't say their names, but they know who I'm talking about, and they're strong mujeres. So.
Yep. So we're calling it out. Well, I enjoyed you on the show as
Thank you for having
always. And City of Stockton, get ready for the rollout. Coming.
And I
to
have an
you.
amazing team. I can send a shout out to Van Peace.
Uh-huh.
You guys are my heart.
That's
My team.
right.
That's my team.
That's right. So see you guys out there in the community. Again, it takes one community, one platform, one force. Let's bring it home, everyone. The kids need us. Let's triage these streets. I'm your host again, Kimberly Warmsley.